Is Business Express on the network service of the Nigerian Television Authority, the NTA, and we're reaching you from Abuja, the nation's capital. I am Muplang Dakok. Good to know that you're always tuned to Business Express. At the end of its September meeting, the Central Bank of Nigeria, CBN Monetary Policy Committee said the majority of its members voted to reduce the monetary policy rate MPR by 100 basis points. The MPC reduced the monetary policy rate from 12.5% to 11.5%, while adjusting its asymmetric corridor around the MPR from plus 200 and minus 500 basis points to plus 100 and minus 700 basis points. Also, the committee decided to retain the cash reserve requirement CRR at 27.5% and liquidity ratio at 30%.
The key factors considered by committee as likely to exert upward pressure on domestic prices in the near term includes the prevalence of security challenges in the country, adverse weather conditions causing flooding in some farming regions, the increase in petroleum pump price, deregulation in the electricity tariffs, low crude oil prices, and exchange rate adjustment.
The CRR is the fund kept with the CBN as a minimum deposit a commercial bank must hold as reserves rather than lend to customers, while liquidity ratio is the portion of assets that can easily be exchanged for money compared to the total assets of a bank or other financial institutions. Now, banks caught delaying the disbursement of funds to eligible farmers under the Anchor Borrowers Program will be severely sanctioned by the Central Bank of Nigeria. The CBN indicated this Tuesday, saying the development conflicts with its efforts to guarantee food security in the country. CBN Director of Development Finance, Yusuf Yila, made the announcement at a stakeholders meeting involving Anchor processors, commodity associations, and banks in Abuja.
And in certain instances where we can replant, we will replant quickly. The three key commodities we're focused on in this dry season. We're focused on rice, we're focused on maize, and we're focused on tomato.
I've said before you ask for disbursement of funds, be sure that you have all your documentations right. You have 5 working days within which we disburse money and for you to give it to the farmers. And as you delay disbursement, it delays activities, we cannot achieve our mandate.
Nigeria and other African countries' gross domestic product GDP is estimated to reach $7 trillion by 2035 because of their huge markets. Secretary General of the African Continental Free Trade Area, Wamkele Mene, revealed this on his working visit to Nigeria.
We are hoping and looking forward to Nigeria's leadership. It is because all of these visions that we expressed in the Lagos Plan of Action, in the Abuja Treaty, started here.
The Senate and the National Assembly are ever committed to providing legislative support. The initial momentum from the signing of the agreement needs to be continued for a greater continental impact to benefit Africans both on the continent and outside it.
Now, Nigeria's desire to domesticate the AfCFTA is witnessing a progression which has advanced to the point of ratifying the agreement to create a single market and promote easy movement of goods and services within the 55 member states of the African Union. To do this, experts say individual countries' policies and laws that contradict the free trade area have to be addressed for proper alignment of the AfCFTA. To discuss the readiness of Nigeria, we have in the studio Francis Anatagu. He is a Senior Special Assistant to the President on Policies and Programs related to Trade and Complementary Policies. He is also the Secretary to Nigeria's National Action Committee on the AfCFTA. Also here is Chinenye Mba Uzuku. He is a policy analyst, thought leader and founder of multiple award-winning solution providers in technology, innovation, ecosystem strategy, and public sector. Gentlemen, you're welcome to Business Express.
Thank you very much.
Okay, let's begin with you, Mr. Anatagu. What have you done since the inauguration of your committee?
Okay, thank you very much. Like you rightly stated, so the president, after we signed the AfCFTA agreement, inaugurated the National Action Committee on AfCFTA, and the objective of that committee is to coordinate the activities of ministries, departments, and agencies of government, as well as the private sector, to undertake interventions to prepare Nigeria to take advantage of the AfCFTA, as well as minimize whatever inherent risks there are in it. Okay. So, following the inauguration, we had to set up the committee properly. Part of it was establish the subcommittees and the technical work streams, and we have about 14 work streams focused on three key areas: trade in goods, trade in services, and trade enablements. And each of these work streams have representatives, director level representatives from both the private sector and the public sector. Okay. And we went into the committee bearing in mind that a study had been done. There was an impact and readiness assessment of the AfCFTA agreement that was done. And there were some concerns that were raised by stakeholders. Okay. Concerns around abuse of trade rules, concerns around how we're going to manage smuggling. We are dealing with smuggling under small ECOWAS, and now we are expanding to 55 African countries. So some people were also agitating that we need to ratify so that we will be at the table for the conversations that need to happen to make sure that Nigeria remains protected as we go forward.
Okay, so how prepared is Nigeria for the implementation of the AfCFTA? So
one of the things that we found is that in dealing with some of the issues that we raised, Nigeria has, ECOWAS is a customs union. We have the ECOWAS trade liberalization scheme, which has been working. Okay. So we have a template already to manage some of the concerns around trade rules. Okay. We found some gaps, but these are gaps that should have been fixed before, but when we joined the WTO and or when we started the ECOWAS common external tariff, but now needs to be fixed. One of that is the trade remedies mechanism, which enables, is like an early warning system that will enable the businesses to identify when there's dumping or when there are things that shouldn't happen the way they should, and highlight it to government, and government will now have to take action at ECOWAS level if it is an ECOWAS issue, at continental level AfCFTA if it is within Africa, or even take it to WTO if it is so, if that is where it should be. So there are existing capabilities already in the system. In terms of some other areas like competitiveness, there are so many projects ongoing that will help our preparedness for AFCFTA. But one key thing that we need to know, as you pointed out in your address before this conversation,
Yes.
for as long as we depend on oil, our future will depend, our economy will depend on the oil price. Recession is looming. Why? Oil price. The solution is to expand non-oil export. AFCFTA gives us the opportunity to do that.
Okay.
AFCFTA,
Let me just pause you there a bit so that I will take on Mr. Chinenye. Chinenye, can you tell us, I know you've been working with the committee, for the actualization of the AFCFTA. Tell us how prepared Nigeria is.
My specific role has been in the area of the digital economy, which has internal and external components. Internal in terms of the sense that digital economy can refer to a sector, an economic sector, as well as an enabler for other sectors. So we think it's pivotal to take advantage of the agreement. If you think about it from the perspectives that we tend to examine things, the first is hardware. Physical goods that can be manufactured and possibly traded with other countries. The next one is around software, the intangible stuff that we all use on our phones, on our devices, and all things. And then the third is about services. Services that are provided in either of these two categories, on top of these two categories. And you want to wonder around the opportunity that really exists. I mean, the digital world doesn't recognize geographies.
Does it recognize what?
Geographies, because it's intangible.
Yes,
so we reach across borders. So we don't go through the same, in many respects, we don't go through the same things that the more tangible type of products would. So you're not clearing my software through a customs. You don't necessarily need immigration to provide a service into another geography. So it's a very interesting area. It's a bit complex, but it's very, very interesting, and it has huge potential upside for Nigeria. Nigeria in particular, and I'll give you one example. The data seems to point to something close to $6.4 billion worth of expatriate skills that are used, imported into Africa, which represents an expropriation. So you think about if you could flip that the other way around, and you could say, well, so literally within Africa, there's an opportunity for human capital today to the tune of about $6.4 billion. How do we access that? Nigeria is one of the countries in software, for instance, in some programming languages, Nigeria rates amongst the top 10, in some the top 5. How do we then harness those skills as human capital and trade them across borders? And the same thing would apply to software. I mean, so there's a huge opportunity that's waiting out there. How ready are we? I think our country has always been ready from the perspective of entrepreneurship. We've always had the will and the capacity to go anywhere in the world to trade and to grow value in any community that we go into. The enablement needs to come through other factors, and one of them I've mentioned, human capital. The other is infrastructure, and I think we're on our way. We're getting there.
Okay, let's go back to you, Mr. Anatago. Do you think that Nigeria would have been able to meet the July 1st date for the implementation of the AFCFTA if it wasn't shifted because of the coronavirus pandemic?
Okay, so that's an interesting question, and I think people need to understand, what does July 1st mean? It means the start.
Okay.
Right? Now, this is a marathon. This is something that what we have now is a framework agreement, right? It would take years to implement. So a lot of Nigeria and a lot of countries are still grappling with a lot of things to get it started. But negotiations in some areas have not been concluded. But really, with what has been done, it's really a symbolic start date to actually ensure that political will remains and get people started. So if we started, and we're hoping that it will start on July 1st of January. 1st of January, and we need to make that work so that we sustain the momentum. A lot of the issues, a lot of things that we need to do to be ready will become apparent as we start. So it is important to put that in perspective. Someone has asked me before, will all the problems disappear on the 1st of January? The answer is no.
Okay.
Will everything that we need to be in place by January? No. But the point is that, you have the will, you start, and then you solve as you go along.
Okay, you talked about how long it might take for us to be able to actualize and begin to get the benefits of the AFCFTA. How long do you think that is going to take?
No, so some benefits will manifest almost immediately.
Okay.
There are some others will manifest over time. As we speak today, if you look at financial services, Nigerian companies are already in Africa, right? And more are going into Africa. In fintech, we are a dominant player in that sector. Our countries are not waiting for this agreement. Our businesses are not waiting for this agreement. They're already going there. This will make their life easier. There are a lot of products that are going formally but also informally into Africa. So it's actually just making it easier for these things to happen, bringing them into more formal economy, and then putting, you talked about harmonizing policies. It's just really making it better. And if you take policy, for instance, and I talked about trade remedies earlier, there are some short-term things that we need to do. There are some short-term games that we need to apply, that I will need to that we will see. But overall, long-term. Now, it will take years to even get to. Even the EU project is still work in progress, as we know. The NAFTA project, the US NAFTA project is work in progress.
Okay, let's talk about some of the fears that, or the concerns that Nigeria and other African countries have. You mentioned some of them and you said those problems are not going to go. But what about the dumping? Many African countries think that with the AFCFTA, their countries will become dumping grounds for goods from other countries. Is Nigeria worried about that?
Yes, we are worried about that, and rightly so. But like I said, the worry is that non-African countries, not all the African countries have the capacity to monitor their borders and do all the right things that we need. So some non-African countries can use those opportunities to bring their products, and then you just change the label and you make it in Africa, and then it comes. So there have been a lot of discussions on rules of origin, but we need that trade remedies mechanism. Countries like South Africa have it, Egypt has it, Kenya has it. This is something, there was an attempt, I think in 2010, to have a law for that, an anti-dumping law bill. So this is something that we have prioritized at the National Action Committee. We are looking at some short-term means of doing this, and it is quite technical. Okay. As well. So the capacity, the infrastructure that we need, the people that have the skills, it's like an investigation. So these are all the things that we need to put in place. And why I say it is very important is if you look at ECOWAS level, there are regulations that were put in place during the Common External Tariff that actually provides you the basis to tackle dumping and so on. There are specific regulations on dumping. Now, how well have we taken advantage of that? Not so well, because of the work that needs to happen, and the institutional infrastructure, so the committees and holding people accountable. So that is what we need, and we are working to put in place.
All right. Let's take you, Mr. Chinenye. How is Nigeria working with other African countries to, actualize and ensure a smooth sale of the AFCFTA when it comes into play?
I think what Francis has referred to is really around the infrastructure and the framework within which the trade will happen. As we speak now, though, you can look at certain areas. Nigeria's music is being exported globally. Nigeria's all the output for the creative industries, the Nollywood story, is being exported globally. Nigerian software is being exported as well. So there's quite a lot of trade that is taking place, and everywhere where Nigerian businesses actually are operating, we want to see how we can expand that capability and let them carry the entire stack that's involved in the enterprise into those environments. So
All
they're
right,
just not
just
trying
very
to market.
quickly. Sorry, I had to cut you short
Yeah.
because we don't have much time on our hands. Okay, so the border closure, do you think it's going to affect the takeoff of the AfCFTA? Because Nigeria's land borders are currently partially closed.
I think there'll always be this is more like something that will be, to my mind, will probably be something that's more dynamic in the sense that they will, when Francis was referring to things, he was saying that there are things that will end by January 1st. There are things that will just be beginning. It's going to be an ongoing process. I believe that the border closures are useful, but to what extent are you going to close the borders to intangibles, things that come to you via your phone,
Yes.
that you're consuming? And increasingly, we're starting to see a lot of things moving into the services portfolio. Once you get into the services portfolio, then border closures really don't make that much of a difference. But for physical goods and services, absolutely, it will make an impact.
All right, I'll go back to Mr. Francis.
If I can make a point on that.
Okay, that will be your closing thoughts.
Okay.
Just wrap it up in 30 seconds.
So that border closure is a failure in implementation.
Okay.
Because there are, for instance, between Nigeria and Benin Republic, there is a customs cooperation agreement. Now, to what extent have you implemented that on both parties, by both parties? So these are the real issues that if we get right, we need to, and it's not like you said, it's dynamic, it is constant, we need to keep at it. It won't just disappear, but it is hurting both all the countries, let's be clear. But at some point, it has to be resolved.
Okay. Thank you very much, gentlemen. It's been a pleasure speaking with you, and we hope that the AfCFTA will take Nigeria and all African countries to where we want to get to.
Thank you.
So to my immediate right is Mr. Chinenye Mba Uzuku. He is a policy analyst. Thank you so much for coming on Business Express today.
Thank you for having me.
And also Mr. Francis Anatagu, who is the Secretary of Nigeria's National Action Committee on AfCFTA. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you very much.
All right, moving on. Nigerian equities notched up midweek as MPC's decision begins to settle. Investors have been seeking safer havens in stocks following weaker bond yields. The NSE All Share Index gained 0.5% to settle at 25,783.2 points. 414 million shares worth 2.28 billion naira were traded in 3,793 deals. Sterling Bank, FBN Holdings, and Access Bank emerged the most active stocks for the day. Meanwhile, the Nigerian Stock Exchange NSE has reiterated its commitment to redefining and improving investors' overall experience in the capital market through deployment of technologies that ensure the market remains modern, convenient, and secure. Speakers at the inaugural Retail Investors webinar emphasized the importance of technology in the fast-emerging new normal economy. NSC's Chief Executive Officer Oscar Onyema, who noted that investor participation is central to the growth and sustainable development of any economy, said the exchange is committed to facilitating conversations that will expand the retail investment opportunities available in the capital markets. And on food security, the National Food Security Council is reassuring Nigerians that the nation will not experience any food crisis in spite of the devastating impact of the recent flooding in parts of the country on agriculture. Vice Chairman of the Council and Governor of Kebbi State, Abubakar Atiku Bagudu, gave the assurance while briefing newsmen after the 5th technical meeting of the council members in the state.
Is there going to be a food crisis? No. By God's grace, there will be none. The flooding is devastating. But Mr. President has been working, as you can evidently see from last week to today. We are having another meeting because that's what bothers Mr. President more than anything else. How does he deliver to Nigerians? And since last week and earlier, the challenge has been come up with how we can intervene so that farmers, fishermen, and those in the animal husbandry can resume economic activity as quickly as possible.
On the issue of prices of crops, even in Abuja, you will not see the price drop immediately. Prices started dropping at the local markets. Those that have existing stock will not lose money and drop the price for you. They will wait until they exhaust the stock or there is a lot of this produce in the market. Then they will be forced to drop the prices. So the crop have started coming up, getting cheaper and being transported. It takes time, depending on how fast the traders are bringing the cheaper stock into the market.
And talking stocks, Australia shares lead gains on the global market, jumping 2% as most markets rise this Wednesday. Bosede Abel has a summary of market activities.
Stocks in Asia were mixed in early trading of Wednesday, 23rd September, as investors reacted to the recent comments from Federal Reserve Chairman Jerome Powell that it will keep interest rates near zero for years until the U.S. economy recovers from the effects of the COVID-19 pandemic. Shanghai Composite was up 0.17% to 3,279.71. Hang Seng Index gained 0.11% to end a trading day at 23,742.51, while Nikkei slipped fractionally to 23,346.49. U.S. stock futures were solidly higher again early Wednesday after the S&P 500 experienced its first positive day in 5 trading sessions. Dow Jones Industrial Average futures received a boost. S&P 500 futures and Nasdaq 100 futures also edged higher. European stocks climbed as investors reacted to key data releases from the Eurozone. Africa stocks resumed early trading mostly bullish, with South Africa's JSE Africa Top 40, Nairobi's All-Share, Tunisia's Tunidex, and Namibia's overall index posting gains, while Ghana's GSA Composite was also marginally positive. Bosede Abel for Business Express.
Thank you, Bosede. And with that report, we've come to the end of this episode of the program. Don't forget you can access this and all previous episodes on YouTube, and you can also communicate with us on Twitter. The handle is @NTA News Now. The hashtag is BizX. We value your feedback, so join us again on Thursday at 9:30 a.m. for another package. I am Muplang Dakok saying stay safe.
From dusk to dawn, 24 hours a day, NTA International is with you. In your living room, office, and everywhere, anywhere. We provide a company you desire in terms of balanced and up-to-date news, programs, and the best of entertainment. Tune in to DSTV channel 251, GoTV channel 91, Freeview channel 264, or live streaming via www.visiontv.co.uk. Application for iOS or Android. Intelsat 901/332.5 degrees east. You can also see us on Facebook and YouTube for quality content on the go. NTA International, Africa's window to the world.
When you hear that sound, you know that Nigeria's most authentic newscast is about to begin. NTA Network News.
A national communion.
network service of the NTA.
They say every day is for the thief, one day for the owner of the house. But ICPC, the Anti-Corruption Commission, has reversed the role. It is now every day for the owner of the house. If you're involved in bribery, over-invoicing, or any shady deal, the day of reckoning has come. ICPC, the Anti-Corruption Commission, is watching you. If you're reported for any corrupt practice, you'll be investigated, prosecuted, and punished. Corruption is harmful to our nation. Join the campaign against it by reporting any corrupt practice to ICPC, the Anti-Corruption Commission.
Let's join hands with ICPC, make it better. Let's make Nigeria great again. ICPC, they want to. Come on, hand for corruption.
Break the chain of corruption now. Don't give, don't take. This message is brought to you by ICPC, the Anti-Corruption Commission.
The Parliament, which is the collective expression of the people's will, is imbued with the supreme task of creating clear and fair legislations, including efficient public oversight. It also, amongst other duties, deliberates upon matters of national importance and public interest. Therefore, its role in the successful prosecution of anti-corruption wars cannot be overemphasized. Welcome to Corruption Must Go, ICPC's weekly television program. I am Hawa Garba. Today on the program, we shall look at how, together with the Parliament, we can strengthen the fight against corruption. But first, Ruth is standing by with updates on happenings around the world of the Commission. Over to you, Ruth.
Welcome to this segment on anti-corruption stories. I am Ruth Awodi. ICPC has quizzed top management staff of the Niger Delta Development Commission, NDDC, over allegations of various acts of corruption, such as diversion of funds, procurement fraud, and misappropriation of the agency's COVID-19 funds. Some directors of NDDC were interrogated at the Commission's headquarters recently after months of intelligence gathering following the receipt of petitions from Nigerians on the alleged illegalities and contracts fraud by some officials of the agency. Top officials of the agency are being investigated for their complicity in an alleged diversion of 5.4 billion naira meant for the purchase of personal protective equipment, PPE, for health workers handling the COVID-19 pandemic in the 9 states of NDDC. The Commission is also investigating the payment of millions of naira to staff of the agency for foreign trainings during the COVID-19 full lockdown, which were never attended, as well as the non-payment of entitlements to students on foreign scholarships. Other allegations being investigated by ICPC include the selling of backdated contract award letters for projects and awards of contracts that were not captured in the budget of the NDDC. ICPC had already retrieved relevant documents with which to continue investigations towards the recovery of diverted funds and prosecution of breaches of the law. In another development, the Federal Executive Council, FEC, at its 20th meeting held Wednesday, 19th August 2020, has approved the National Ethics and Integrity Policy. The policy, which is the brainchild of ICPC, was co-sponsored by the Office of the Secretary to the Government of the Federation, OSGF, and National Orientation Agency, NOA. The policy was approved for the good and ethical conduct of the Nigerian citizenry. The journey towards developing the policy on ethics and integrity for Nigeria commenced when the Commission developed the much-acclaimed National Values Curriculum for the teaching of 12 identified core values in primary, secondary, and tertiary institutions across the nation. The curriculum, approved by the National Council on Education in 2004 and infused into existing school subjects, is being taught as part of those subjects since 2007-2008 academic session, with a teacher's guide launched in 2012 to assist teachers in the effective communication of the values. In his opening statement in the policy document, ICPC Chairman Professor Bolaji Owasonye stated that the development of the National Ethics and Integrity Policy is a befitting follow-up to the National Values Curriculum initiative. The policy was developed in collaboration and consultation with stakeholders, traditional and religious institutions, civil society, the public and private sector, behavioral change experts, etc., who also had an opportunity to make their input at a webinar held on 21st May 2020. Following the approval by the Federal Executive Council, plans are ongoing to convene broader stakeholder meetings to prepare an action plan and consequence management framework for the policy. That would be all on this segment. Corruption Must Go continues with Hawa. Stay with us.